From beneath the earth's surface, as well as above it, men reap a rich harvest of many essential raw materials. Materials like iron ore that we need and use in the finished form of automobiles that carry us over the nation's roads from town to town, from one end of the land to the other. Trucks that transport the country's merchandise, the output of our plants and factories, the produce of our soil. Tractors, implements, a great number of other steel products that are employed on the farmlands of America. So numerous and familiar are the uses of steel today that we take this important product for granted, give no thought to the many difficult operations involved in its making. Even a brief tour through one of the great plants of the United States Steel Corporation will give some idea of the problems that must be faced and solved by the maker of steel. Consider the conditions under which steel is produced. The terrific heat, for example, when the blast furnace releases its fiery stream of molten pig iron. Consider the heat encountered in the open hearth furnace, where selected scrap, limestone, molten pig iron, and other materials are converted into steel. And the equipment used in filling a mold with liquid steel always works under high surrounding temperatures. This is only one of the many problems that must be overcome in the successful, economical operation of any steel mill. The very nature of the machinery used makes the task more difficult. For instance, the different types of equipment needed for hoisting and conveying are all big, heavy, hard working, must handle loads of many tons, operate under great pressures. Huge rollers in the blooming mill make steel tougher and better by working the glowing ingots back and forth between them. But this operation, like all others in making steel, must be carried out with a minimum consumption of power. They must run smoothly to maintain continuous production. Repairs and replacements must be kept at the lowest possible level. Lubrication costs have to be held to a minimum. Lower power consumption, more continuous production, lower maintenance costs, lower lubrication costs. These are four important targets that the steelmaker must hit to run his business profitably, to save money. To accomplish those four vital objectives, no other single factor is more important than correct lubrication. That's why this great industry uses only high-quality lubricants, top-notch oils and greases that help make possible the economical production of many products made of steel that are essential to our daily work and welfare. Various kinds of wire, an indispensable material that fills an important role in a great many occupations, none more essential than farming. Wire fencing made by machines that work quickly, perfectly, and at low cost, thanks in large part to correct lubrication, to the use of high-quality lubricants that have helped the steel industry save money, help keep all costs as low as possible throughout the manufacture of every product. It has been truly said that today the world moves on rubber. It shoes the wheels of practically every type of vehicle we use for transportation, trucking, farming. And yet the rubber tire is another vital product that we have come to take for granted. These scenes, taken in a plant of the B.F. Goodrich Company, give some idea of the many operations that go into the making of a tire, the wide range of equipment that is needed. High-speed machines, for example, that carry the thousands of cords necessary for the construction of the plies. Huge calendars must run accurately and smoothly as they combine the cords with specially compounded rubber to form ply stock. Other machines form wire into beads, work under entirely different conditions that must be taken into consideration for steady, economical performance. Compounding ingredients for the several necessary kinds of rubber is accomplished in various types of rolling mills, further complicating the problems of the tire manufacturer. To put all the parts of a tire together calls for a high degree of skill and hand craftsmanship. But before the tire builder assembles the plies, beads, chafing strips, and tread stock, many different machines have had a part in their making. Since a tire is composed of cotton, rubber, steel wire, carbon black, and various chemicals, it takes extensive, widely varied equipment to process these different materials. Machines of many different designs, running under different conditions of speed, pressure, and heat. And while the machinery is totally unlike that used in making steel, the same four factors apply if tires are to be made economically. Power loss, maintenance, and lubrication costs all must be kept as low as possible. Production must be continuous. All the way through every step of tire manufacturing, specially designed high-quality lubricants help to meet those essential requirements. They help the tire industry save money, make it possible to turn out economically the thousands of tires of every type needed on the roads and farms of America. An outstanding contribution to our fabric needs for clothing, home furnishings, and other uses, Rayon is another product whose importance continues to grow greater every year. A product whose manufacture involves problems that the public never realizes. To get an idea of the operations and equipment used, let us visit a plant of DuPont DeNemours Company, where Rayon is made by the Viscose Process. The first stages of manufacture change sheets of solid cellulose pulp into a liquid that can be spun into rayon yarn. These operations are carried out in specially designed and constructed chemical machinery, such as this steeping press. Shredding machines of large capacity must work smoothly and continuously as they tear the moist sheets into crumbs. Each succeeding step in the chemical process requires other types of special equipment, churns, blenders, mixers, all of which must run steadily and with a fine degree of accuracy to do their work properly. The actual spinning of the liquid solution, called viscose, made from the solid pulp, is one of the most fascinating operations in all industry. The spinning solution is pumped through tiny holes in a small nozzle called the spinneret. As each tiny stream leaves the spinneret, it hardens immediately to form a solid filament. These combine to make rayon yarn. The remaining operations of collecting, cleansing, and winding the yarn call for tremendous installations of different mechanical devices, a countless number of moving parts that travel in different directions at different speeds under varying conditions. Parts that must be correctly lubricated to ensure economical production. The manufacture of viscose rayon is a continuous process. Once a batch is started on its way, any interruption in its completion from raw materials into finished yarn can run into the loss of many thousands of dollars. In this industry, time and freedom from breakdown are just as important as they are to any farmer harvesting his crops. That's why only lubricants of the highest quality are entrusted with the job of helping prevent mechanical failure of any machinery. In every industry, no matter what machinery is used, no matter what the methods of manufacturing may be, no matter what finished products are made, correct lubrication is absolutely necessary for economical production. To save money in any type of operation, power consumption must be kept as low as possible. Regular, continuous production must be maintained. Repair and replacement costs must be held at a minimum. Manufacturers in every branch of industry have brought those problems to Socony-Vacuum, the company that pioneered in developing and producing high-quality lubricants specifically designed to successfully meet the lubrication requirements of every type of industrial machinery, regardless of what it is used for or the conditions under which it works. Lubricants that save power, lubricants that save on maintenance, lubricants that save time. Today, more than ever before, farming is an industrial occupation. The ever-growing use of power-drawn and power-driven machinery has made the farm a factory, too. As a result, the farmer must solve the same four problems that confront the steel maker, the tire maker, the textile maker, and every other user of mechanical equipment. To make the most money, he must run all his machinery with the lowest possible loss of power. He must avoid excessive expense for repairs and replacements. And his equipment must keep on working when he needs it. It must ensure regular, continuous production, and overall lubrication costs must be kept down to a minimum. That's why economy-minded farmers realize that if it pays industrial plants to use nothing but high-quality lubricants, plants where operating and maintenance costs must be kept down to rock bottom, then it stands to reason that in any farming operation, their use must also mean a real saving in a year's work. A saving in power, a saving in maintenance, a saving in time. Let's get down to earth again and learn what farmers themselves have to say on this subject. Mr. Waldo Hancock, the man on the left, is just one of many farmers who knows the importance of correct lubrication. Mr. Hancock and his son Harold are looking over a heavy field of Atlas sorghum, a crop in which the Hancocks specialize. The unusually high yield per acre of this hybrid plant is one reason why it is gaining increased popularity as an ensilage crop. Its root system is strong and tough, ensuring a firm anchorage in the soil. This stand of Atlas sorghum being harvested by the Hancocks is extremely heavy, running about 20 tons to the acre. The closely packed stalks are handled much the same as corn, and the crop is cut, chopped, and loaded in one operation. The tractors and all other machines used see plenty of hard service. They're heavily loaded because sorghum is a thick, tough crop to harvest. The cut material is loaded on lengths of wire screens that cover the entire floors of the trucks used for hauling the crop to the silos. Silos at the Hancock West Farm have a storage capacity of about 3,500 tons of ensilage. A truck is unloaded by rolling the wire screen, dumping the sorghum onto a conveyor which feeds it to a blower. Better than 2 tons of cut sorghum a minute pour into this underground brick silo. That's a big job for all the tractors used, both in the fields and for belt work. This one often runs about 10 hours a day at high speed to keep the blower going. Steady, hard service. Paul Hancock on the right and his brother Lee will tell you that poor crankcase oil won't stand up under that kind of work.
Tractor engines run plenty hot. Pistons, bearings, all moving parts. They can wear out long before their time with poor oil. There isn't much room for oil to get between the piston and the cylinder or into a bearing either because, well, clearances are a lot smaller than they used to be. Another thing, those bearings and a lot of other working parts fit closely. The wrong kind of oil can slow them up, make the engine burn more fuel for power. Well, that's wasting money. That's why the Hancock farm uses only high-quality oil. It keeps the tractors running right. They're always ready to work and keep on working.
The Hancock farm finds that it pays to use high-quality engine oil because it prevents rapid wear and oil drag. Good oil also saves money for other reasons, as many users can testify. This is a view on the property of William J. Hines, Jr. It covers about 4,000 acres. Among its many operations, the Hines Ranch handles considerable stock, both beef and dairy cattle as well as hogs. Here's just a few of them answering the come-and-get-it call at the feeding troughs. Trucks filled with ensilage crops are driven directly into a huge trench-type silo. By comparing the size of the truck with the area of this new brick-lined trench, some idea of its great capacity can be imagined. A tractor dumps the fodder by rolling a wire screen covering the floor of the truck, which has been loaded in the field by a harvester. After dumping, a crawler-type diesel tractor rolls back and forth over the ensilage, packing it down tightly. Farming on the Hines Ranch calls for considerable power equipment, and the tractors, trucks, harvesters, and other machines used must stand up under hard service for long hours at a stretch. Mr. S.R. Lowe, who manages the Hines Ranch, keeps the equipment running right and at low cost. Here's how he feels about the value of correct lubrication.
Using only high-quality engine oil in a tractor saves money in the long run, and it's easy to see why. It's up to the oil to keep the piston rings free to move in and out. Otherwise, they can't seal the combustion chamber. With poor oil, gum, carbon, and dirt get in back of the rings, holding them in, wasting power and letting good fuel run down into the crankcase. That's just one reason why the Hines Ranch uses only top-quality oil and saves real money doing it.
And other men who watch every penny they spend in their farming agree with Mr. Lowe. Countless farmers all over the country have found that it pays to use nothing but high-quality engine oil in all tractors because correct lubrication means getting the most power at the lowest cost out of any engine. It helps keep engines running smoothly, steadily, at minimum operating and maintenance costs. Of course, correct lubrication of the engine also depends on other services besides regular crankcase changes with high-quality oil. Again, let's emphasize the fact that oil filters should be properly looked after, always kept clean so they can do their job right. Dirty, clogged-up filters are no help in keeping the oil clean. The same thing goes for air cleaners. If they're neglected, dirt can get into the crankcase, shortening the life of the oil and scratching moving parts so that they wear out too soon. The condition of the cooling system affects an engine, too. Using mobile hydrotone, especially when you're getting ready for spring, helps keep the cooling system clean because it prevents rust from forming. Obtaining all the economical power you can out of a tractor engine is one big factor in good power farming. But it's not the whole story. It's just as important to get as much as possible of the engine's power turning the wheels or belt pulley. That depends on the transmission and final drive. Here's just one farm of many all over the country that saves money by the use of the finest gear oils that can be had. The man on the left is Mr. Carl Brown, a tenant farmer of over 300 acres, here seen with Mr. F.H. Kleinfelter, the owner of this property. Mr. Brown has some ideas on the question of lubricating transmission and final drives. They must be good ones, too, because his local agent, High Shaw, can tell you that 4-year-old tractor still runs and looks first class. Let's listen to them.
A certain amount of dust and dirt are bound to get into any gear case because it's always working in dusty or dirty air. Unless you're careful, some dust or dirt is also bound to get in when a filler plug or cover plate is removed. And it doesn't settle to the bottom right away. It travels around inside the case, cutting the parts like a grindstone, wearing them out. Now that's one reason why it pays to check up on the condition of the gear oil from time to time. And there are others too. We've all heard before how water gets into the oil. It forms when the gear case sweats, cooling off overnight. Now that can happen many times during a season, and the oil suffers. Can't do a good job of lubricating the parts the way it should. In the winter, water in the oil may freeze. The oil gets too thick. Why, it may get so bad that it won't flow properly, and the gears just cut a path right through it. Then you have no lubrication at all.
Those are all good reasons why a man should examine gear oil regularly to see if it's okay. And if the gear oil does need changing, as many farmers can tell you, there are a few little things anybody can do that make a better job of servicing a gear case. Drain the oil while the tractor is still hot from running. Then flush the gears thoroughly with kerosene. Block the wheel nearest the drain plug and jack up the other one so that when you drain the kerosene later, all of it will run out. Start up the engine and put the tractor into gear. Let it run a few minutes. Run it forward and backward to give the kerosene a chance to do a good job of flushing before you drain it. Some people may feel that it doesn't make much difference what kind of oil you throw into a gear case. But when you stop to think about it, that oil has to take a lot of punishment, especially when you start up under heavy loads or when you run into wheel slippage. The oil must cling, coat, and follow the gears when they're moving and be carried along to every part in the case that has to be lubricated. It mustn't put a lot of drag on the gears either, otherwise you're losing power. If the oil doesn't flow easily enough to follow the gears, the teeth just cut a path through it. The parts quickly run dry, even if there's plenty of oil in the case. That's why it pays to stick to high-quality gear oil. After all, it's good business to play safe and be protected from expensive gear troubles. Farmers all over the country know how important it is to use only high-quality gear oils of the right grade. The Socony-Vacuum line includes top-notch lubricants for all factory recommendations. They're made to give first-class protection and lubrication. That means real economy. We all know that different sections of the United States use different farming methods, grow different kinds of crops, a wide variety that calls for many types of implements. But regardless of the crops raised, the machines used, and the conditions under which they work, farmers all over the country agree that it is just as important, just as economical, to use high-quality lubricants on any implement as it is on the tractor that runs it. Let's look in on one such place, the farm of Mr. Fred C. Heck. Like every other man in this business, he is interested in keeping all operating and maintenance costs as low as possible. And one of the best ways that he knows of doing that is to use nothing but high-quality oils and greases on all farm machinery. Mr. Heck, at the right, doesn't have to sell his son Howard on the value of that policy. But anyway, he's going to demonstrate the quality of one of the best all-around lubricants for farm machinery, Mobil Grease number 2. Everybody knows how this grease stands up under heavy pounding in a bearing. But let's try it out in the open where we can see how it works. Smack comes the hammer down on the grease, but not a drop flies off the plow frame. See how it resists separation. Another thing about that grease, it stands up under heat, too. No matter how hot it gets while you're running a piece of equipment, Mobil Grease number 2 resists heat, gives a heavy, protective, lubricating film that does a good job. Sometimes, as in rice farming, you need a grease that won't wash out. Mobil Grease number 2 is your best answer. It's built to resist the action of water. Very often, an implement must work under dusty conditions. That calls for a grease that seals the bearings and other parts so that dust or dirt can't get in. Mobil Grease number 2 is especially made to stay in place and provide a strong seal at the ends of a bearing. It keeps out foreign material that causes rapid wear. Modern combines and many other farm machines use anti-friction bearings of several types because they need less power to turn them. But if their finely finished surfaces are damaged through the use of poor grease, the ability of such bearings to save power is soon lost. Mobil Grease number 2 is especially recommended for most anti-friction bearings on implements. It is particularly suited for this work because it gives thorough protection, which means the bearings last longer. And it also gives good, lasting lubrication so that an implement does not need too frequent servicing, saving a man's time. This alfalfa harvester of the W.J. Small Company is an outstanding example of Mobil Grease number 2's ability to protect and lubricate an implement. It's often on the job 24 hours a day, long, hard service. But Mobil Grease number 2 keeps it running right. Now let's look in on another fine farm, the property of Mr. Alfred Heck, to get some information on another matter that is important to every farmer, the correct lubrication of tractor front wheel bearings. Alfred Heck is a brother of Fred Heck, whose place we just visited a short time back. Mr. Heck's sons, Walter on the left and Arthur on the right, watch Bert Wilson, the local agent, remove a front wheel to begin the job. And it's a job Bert knows how to handle, as you can tell by what he has to say about it.
After removing the bearings, they should be washed thoroughly and carefully to completely remove all the old grease and anything else that may have gotten into them. Wipe them dry just as carefully. Be sure they are absolutely clean, and give them plenty of time after wiping to let all the kerosene evaporate. You can't be too careful about cleaning all the parts. Even a small amount of grit or dirt can quickly damage the bearings by causing rapid wear. The best lubricant you can use for this job is Mobil Grease number 5. It's specially designed and made to resist the heat that develops in a tractor wheel bearing. The best way to use it is to pack the bearings by hand. Where there is a pressure fitting, using a pressure gun too frequently can damage the seal, which may cause the bearing to wear out rapidly. Examine all felt seals and retainers carefully. Don't take any chances. If these parts show the least sign of wear, throw them away. Otherwise, all your good work in correctly lubricating the bearings may be wasted. The few extra cents spent in putting in new felts and retainers is cheap insurance against possible bearing failures, against the unnecessary expense of replacing bearings that go before their time. As with every other moving part of a tractor or implement, it pays to do a good, thorough job of lubrication here as often as necessary. And using only high-quality lubricants is an important part of that job. Don't try to save by reusing old parts like cotter pins. That's false economy. Put in new ones and play safe. The same thing goes for gaskets, too, wherever they're needed. Use fresh materials all throughout and avoid the chance of something giving way, something that may cost you an unnecessary and expensive repair bill. These simple, common-sense steps in the lubrication of tractor front wheel bearings are easily done, and they assure you first-class protection, first-class lubrication.
Well, Bert Wilson has the right dope on that. Now let's look into some other farm lubrication problems. On some types of implements, one lubricant must protect both the bearings and the gears which they support. Mobil Oil C and CW are perfectly suited for such double duty. Where recommended, these lubricants also ensure correct lubrication of the track rollers on crawler-type tractors, other important parts that call for high-quality lubricants. Getting correct lubrication all the way through on every piece of equipment is important to any farmer. There is someone who can help you with that job, your local Mobil Oil man. He will check all your machines and specify the best lubricant for each, depending upon its make, the manufacturer's recommendations, and the conditions under which it operates. Keep that information handy. Then you'll always know just what to use in lubricating any piece of machinery on your farm. This man has other material that you can use. A yearly almanac, for instance, in which you can keep an accurate record of many operations. It also has a lot of helpful hints for you and your family. As we have seen, every big manufacturing industry keeps operating and maintenance costs down by using nothing but the best lubricants obtainable on all kinds of machinery. They use them to save power. Quality lubricants can save power by helping a machine run smoother and easier. They use them to save on maintenance. Quality lubricants help prevent unnecessary repairs and the need to buy excessive replacements. They use them to save time. Quality lubricants can save time by preventing breakdowns. Add them all up, and you find that savings on power, maintenance, and time mean just one thing: a saving in money. And on the farm, just as everywhere else in all industry, using nothing but the best lubricants saves power, saves on maintenance, saves time, saves real money. The greatest insurance for steady, long, low-cost service is correct lubrication. That calls for lubricants of the highest quality. Socony-Vacuum products include outstanding engine oils, gear oils, greases, and specialties, each the best of its kind, each honestly made to enable any machine to give its best service for the longest period of time at the lowest possible operating and maintenance cost.